The message of Earth. The skies above Vera 9 were quiet at last. The alien fleet was gone, reduced to wreckage drifting through space. Fires no longer reigned on the colony. Instead, the people looked up at the shadows of Earth's armada filling the heavens. Giants of steel, endless in number, moving like one living force. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy had seen the full strength of Earth, and it had broken. Commander Alrin stood outside the bunker, dust clinging to his uniform. His officers gathered around him, their faces pale with awe. None spoke. They only watched the armada above, afraid to even breathe too loudly in the presence of such power. The young officer at Alrin's side finally whispered, "Sir, what happens now?" Alrin's voice was quiet. "Now, the galaxy listens." On the flagship Eternity, Admiral Kale stood at the center of the bridge. The crew watched him with anticipation as he gazed at the broken battlefield. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of centuries. "Open a channel," he ordered. The comms officer nodded. "Channel open, Admiral. Every world, every ship, every council station is listening." Kale's eyes hardened. For too long, humanity had been silent. Tonight, silence ended. Across the galaxy, screens flickered to life. In colonies, in palaces, in pirate dens and council chambers, the same image appeared. The face of a human admiral, lit by the glow of the Eternity's bridge. His voice echoed everywhere, deep and steady. "This is the Earth Armada." Every heart froze. You thought no one would come. You thought humanity was gone. You thought our silence meant weakness. But you were wrong. The words struck like thunder. On Vera 9, civilians in shelters wept openly. In the council chamber, delegates sat frozen, staring at the man they had once dismissed as legend. Even pirates in hidden stations turned off their weapons, listening in silence. Admiral Kale continued, "When the council abandoned you, we did not. When empires turned their backs, we remembered. Humanity does not abandon its own. Humanity does not surrender. And when the call comes, we answer." His hand tightened on the rail beside him. "Today, you saw the Armada. Tomorrow, the galaxy will remember this. Earth has returned." The council chamber trembled with whispers. The Arun delegate sat pale, his voice shaking. They speak to us all." The Cora representative's claws tapped against the desk, her eyes fixed on the human's face. "No, they do not speak to us. They speak over us. To the galaxy itself." The Shun elder closed his eyes, his voice heavy with resignation. "The throne is no longer empty. It has always been theirs." Back on Vera 9, soldiers cheered as the broadcast ended. Civilians shouted the same word again and again. "Humans!" Their voices rose like a wave, echoing across ruined streets and broken shelters. Commander Alrin's eyes burned with tears as he whispered to himself, "They came. Against all odds, they came." In the aftermath, the Armada did not linger. They did not claim the colony nor demand tribute. They repaired defenses, delivered supplies, and then began to move again. Ship after ship slipped back into the void, their engines glowing like blue stars. To the people of Vera 9, it felt like gods walking away after saving mortals. To the rest of the galaxy, it was something far more terrifying. The Armada was not gone. It was moving, and no one knew where it would strike next. Whispers spread faster than light. In markets and taverns, in starports and battlefields, the same words carried from world to world. Humanity has returned, and they do not forget. Pirate fleets scattered into hiding. Empires hesitated to fight old wars. Even the mighty council, once arrogant, spoke in softer tones, because now, every decision, every act, every word carried a shadow, the shadow of Earth's Armada. On the bridge of the Eternity, Admiral Kale stood silent, watching the stars ahead. His crew waited for orders, But he gave none. His eyes burned with quiet fire, his voice soft enough that only those closest could hear. They thought no one would come, but we came, and now they will never forget. The stars stretched forward, and the Armada vanished into the dark, leaving only silence behind. But it was no longer the silence of absence, it was the silence of power, the silence of Earth. The arrival, the black of space shook as Earth's Armada arrived. One ship became 10. 10 became 100, then 1,000. The void filled with human warships so massive and countless that the stars themselves seemed to vanish behind them. Their black hulls gleamed with silver markings of Earth. Their engines burned with steady fire, and their formations moved with terrifying precision. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy remembered what it meant to fear humanity. On the Yuan surface of Vera 9, soldiers and civilians ran to the shelter's narrow windows. Their eyes widened as streaks of blue light cut across the skies. "It's them," a soldier whispered. His hands trembled on his rifle. The humans came back. Children pointed at the sky, watching the giant shadows of ships move above the flames. Families cried, not in fear this time, but in relief. Commander Alrin stood in the bunker, staring at the holographic display. Blue icons now filled the screen beside the red of the enemy fleet. His voice cracked, but his words carried hope. "Earth has not abandoned us." In orbit, the alien commander tried to steady his voice. "Do not panic," he barked to his officers. "They are relics, shadows of a dead world. Fire all cannons. Burn them before they move closer." His fleet unleashed everything they had. Beams of energy lit the skies, tearing through the void, striking at the human formation. For a moment, it seemed as if the Armada would fall. But, when the light faded, the human ships still moved forward, untouched, their shields glowing faintly like halos of fire. The human flagship, Eternity, advanced at the center. Its hull stretched for kilometers, a fortress of steel bristling with weapons. On its bridge, Admiral Kale stood tall, his eyes calm. "Return fire," he said softly. The Armada answered with thunder. Columns of blue-white energy tore through the void, slicing enemy warships in half. Missiles launched in perfect arcs, glowing, like falling stars before tearing through fleets. Rail cannons fired bolts faster than light, each shot breaking shields as if they were glass. In a single volley, dozens of alien ships burned. Flames spread across the enemy formation, their neat circle breaking into chaos. On the ground, the skies turned bright as wreckage rained down, burning trails across the atmosphere. Soldiers and civilians cheered, their voices rising above the thunder of battle. For the first time, hope felt real. The enemy commander slammed his claws against the console. "Regroup. Do not let them surround us." But it was too late. The Armada moved like a tide, flowing through the enemy fleet with perfect unity. For every human ship struck, 5 alien vessels fell. For every fire lit on Earth's hulls, entire squadrons of the enemy were erased. A desperate officer shouted, "Commander, we cannot hold them." The commander's scaled face twisted in rage and fear. "This is impossible. They were gone. They were supposed to be gone." In the shelters of Vera 9, people wept as they watched. The sky had been filled with fire for weeks, but now it was a different fire. A fire that defended, that fought for them. One old woman whispered to her granddaughter, "Remember this night. Remember who came when no one else did. Humans. Always. The humans." Back on the flagship Eternity, Admiral Kale watched the enemy fleet collapse. He raised his hand, his voice steady. Carried across every ship in the Armada. "Do not stop. Let them remember this day. Let the galaxy remember what it means when Earth moves." The Armada surged forward, faster, fiercer, unstoppable. Alien. Ships broke formation, fleeing into the dark, but humanity gave no ground. Not this time. Commander Alrin's bunker shook again, but not from bombardment. This time it was the sound of victory. His young officer turned to him, tears in her eyes. "They came, sir. They actually came." Alrin's voice trembled as he nodded. "Yes, and they are more than we ever dreamed. In the council chamber, far away, the delegates watched the battle through live feeds. Gasps filled the hall as they saw the Armada crush the enemy. The Orun delegates' scales went pale. They were never gone. The Korra representative whispered, her voice filled with awe and fear. No, they were waiting. The empty human seats in the center glowed under the golden lights, no longer symbols of absence, but of return. Above, Vera 9, the Armada closed its jaws around the last of the enemy fleet. Explosions lit the void like dying stars until only silence remained. The battle was over. But the galaxy had only just begun to tremble. The tide turns. The battlefield above Vera 9 was no longer red with the flames of defeat. It was blue with the fire of humanity's return. The alien fleet, once confident and unshakable, now scrambled in chaos. Ships broke formation, captains screamed orders, and panic spread faster than any weapon. What had begun as a slaughter of the colony had turned into the destruction of the invaders. On the surface, people poured out of shelters, staring into the burning sky. Children pointed as giant alien cruisers exploded one after another, torn apart by human rail cannons and missiles. Soldiers who once stood ready for death now shouted in victory, raising their rifles toward the stars. Commander Alrin watched the holographic map inside the bunker. For the first time, the red dots were shrinking. Blue human signals surrounded the enemy, pressing them from every side. His voice cracked as he whispered, "The tide. It has turned." On the flagship Eternity, Admiral Kale stood like a statue at the heart of the storm. Around him, the bridge crew reported the collapse of enemy formations. Enemy cruisers breaking Sector 3. 2 carriers destroyed in Sector 5. Remaining fleets attempting retreat. Kale's eyes narrowed. They thought no, one would come. Now they will learn that when Earth comes, Earth does not leave unfinished work. Pursue them. Human ships surged forward like wolves hunting prey. Squadrons of smaller vessels broke into the fleeing formations, cutting them apart with precision strikes. Massive dreadnoughts unleashed volleys that ripped through enemy shields like paper. For every human ship struck down, 5 alien warships burned in its place. The alien commander's flagship shuddered under another barrage. On his bridge, sparks flew from consoles, smoke filled the air, and officers screamed in panic. "We cannot hold them, Commander," shouted one. "Retreat," cried another. "If we stay, we all die." The commander slammed his clawed fist against the panel, his eyes burning with rage. "We are the predators, we do not run." But even as he spoke, the truth was clear. His fleet was broken, his power was gone, and before him stood an enemy he had believed extinct. For the first time in his life, the predator felt fear. Back on Vera 9, soldiers in the trenches cheered louder as enemy wreckage rained from the sky. Civilians hugged each other, weeping, their tears no longer of despair but of joy. An old farmer stood with his grandson, pointing to the glowing trails of the Armada. "Remember this night, boy. The humans came. When no one else would, they came." The council chamber, light years away, erupted into chaos as delegates watched live feeds. The Orun delegate trembled, his scaled skin pale. "It is impossible. They should not exist. They should not have this power." The Korra representative's claws clicked against the desk, her voice quiet but sharp. "You wanted proof of humanity's strength. Look at the stars. The Armada is your proof." The Shun elder whispered what all of them feared to admit. They were never gone. They were waiting. And now, the galaxy belongs to them again. The 12 empty human seats at the center seemed brighter than ever, glowing like silent thrones ready to be filled. On the flagship Eternity, Admiral Kale raised his hand. His voice carried across every human channel, deep and steady. "Do not stop. Do not falter. Let the galaxy see our fire. Let every empire know this truth. Humanity does not abandon its own." The Armada roared forward. Missiles streaked across the void like falling stars. Rail cannons thundered, and the fleeing enemy fleet shattered piece by piece. In minutes, what had once been the galaxy's terror was nothing more than burning debris scattered across the black. The enemy commander's flagship tried to run. Engines flared, weapons fired blindly, but the Armada closed in. From the eternity, a final order rang out. End them. A barrage of energy tore through the alien flagship. Explosions consumed it, fire bursting across its hull until it broke apart in silence. The predator who once promised victory left nothing behind but ashes. On the surface of Vera 9, the skies cleared. The red glow of destruction faded, replaced by the blue light of humanity's ships hanging above like guardians. The people erupted in cheers. Soldiers fired rifles into the air. Children shouted the word humans again and again. For the first time in generations, the colony felt hope. Commander Alrin stood in the bunker doorway, staring up at the endless Armada. His eyes burned, with tears. "We thought no one would come," he whispered. "But Earth came, and they came like gods." Far away, across every corner of the galaxy, the message spread faster than light. Merchants, smugglers, soldiers, and rulers alike whispered the same words: "Earth has returned," and with their return the galaxy trembled. Whispers of Earth rumors travel faster than fleets. Even before the enemy finished tightening its grip on Vera 9, whispers began to spread across the galaxy. A broken transmission, faint and distorted, had been picked up by traders near the rim. It spoke of movement, of something old and powerful awakening. At first, no one believed it. "Earth is dead," said the Creel ambassador on a distant colony. "Humans abandoned the stars decades ago. They are nothing but myths." But the trader swore on his life. I heard it. The words were clear. The Armada moves. In the dark corners of space, people clung to hope. Colonies that once cursed, humanity now prayed the rumors were true. Smugglers painted old Earth symbols on their ships, hoping it would scare pirates. And across council space, quiet fear spread among the alien empires. If humanity truly returned, nothing would remain the same. On Vera 9, the colony still burned. The enemy's grip tightened each day. Cities collapsed, shelters overcrowded, food, supplies almost gone. But even as despair grew, the whispers reached them too. A soldier in the trenches passed the rumor in a trembling voice. "They say Earth heard us. They say their fleet is coming." The man beside him shook his head. "I've heard that story 100 times. Humanity left us, they don't come back." The soldier smiled faintly. "Then tell me why the stars feel different tonight." They looked up together, and for a moment, even surrounded by fire, they let themselves believe. In the council chamber, panic replaced reason. Delegates shouted across the hall, arguing what the rumors meant. The Arun delegate hissed, his scaled hands slamming the desk. "It is impossible. Humanity cannot rise again. They were broken, scattered. This is a lie, to make us weak." But the Cora representative clicked her claws in defiance. And yet the whispers spread. Every colony, every ship, every trader repeats the same word: Armada. Can you silence the galaxy itself? The Shun elder raised his trembling voice. "We must prepare. If Earth has truly returned, then the Council must be ready to face them." But none of them agreed. Some feared humanity's vengeance. Others longed for their return. The chamber split further, and the empty human seats at the center seemed to glow with quiet power. Far from the Council, in the void of deep space, fleets began to tremble. The enemy who besieged Vera 9 received their own whispers. Reports came from scouts who vanished at the edge of unknown space. Ships sent to investigate returned burned and broken, their crews whispering of black silhouettes moving in the dark. The enemy commander dismissed it at first. Ghost stories, nothing more. But then his sensors picked up something strange. Faint signals, old human codes, frequencies not used in decades, repeating across the void. One of his officers stared at the readings with wide eyes. "Sir, these codes are genuine. They're human." The commander snarled. "It is deception. The Council uses tricks to weaken us." But his voice shook, and his hands lingered too long on the controls. Because in his heart, he feared the whispers might be true. Back on Vera 9, Commander Alrin sat in the bunker listening to static. His final call still echoed in his head, a plea thrown into the dark with no answer. But tonight, the static changed. A pulse, a beat, then another. Faint but clear, Alrin leaned forward, his heart pounding. What is that? The young officer adjusted the receiver, her eyes wide. It's a signal. Not alien, not council. Commanders, it's human. The bunker fell silent as the sound repeated. It was not words, not yet, but it carried weight. Like thunder. For the first time in weeks, Alrin allowed himself to hope. In the great shipyards of Earth, the Armada moved closer to readiness. Thousands of ships stood in formation, black against the stars, their engines glowing faintly. Crews poured into decks. Weapons hummed with ancient power. On the flagship Eternity, the Admiral watched the stars, his voice cold but steady. They think we are myths. They think Earth is gone. Let them believe that until the last moment. And when we come, the galaxy will remember us. The bridge crew bowed their heads. No one doubted, because whispers were no longer just whispers. They were becoming truth. In the galaxy's shadows, the message spread faster than light. Merchants, smugglers, soldiers, and civilians passed it in hushed voices. The Armada comes, and every alien empire trembled. The burning skies. The dawn on Vera 9 was not sunlight. It was fire. Alien warships unleashed their fury as the colony's last defenses crumbled. Energy beams cut through the sky like blades, striking cities, shattering towers, and leaving craters where homes once stood. The ground shook with every blast, and the people hiding underground could feel the end pressing closer. Commander Alrin stood in the command bunker, his eyes fixed on the holographic map. Red lights filled the display, enemy ships closing in, from every direction. Their fleet was unstoppable, endless. The young officer beside him whispered, her voice breaking. They are preparing for the final strike. They will burn the capital before nightfall. Alrin's chest tightened. He had sworn to protect his people, but now there was nothing left to give. His fists clenched, his voice steady even as despair filled him. Then we will fight until the last stone is ash. Let history remember we stood. Above the planet, the enemy commander smiled from his flagship. His reptilian features gleamed in the red glow of destruction. This is the fate of those who resist, he hissed to his crew. The galaxy will learn that no one comes to save the weak. Vera 9 will be a warning carved in fire. His officers cheered. Already victory felt certain. On the surface, the last fighters of Vera 9 scrambled into the skies. Old machines patched together with spare parts roared into the storm. Pilots knew they could not win, but still they flew. A pilot's voice crackled over the comms, filled with grim determination. If this is the end, let us meet it in the skies. Let them see we do not crawl. We rise. The fighters cut through enemy fire, dodging beams, firing missiles that barely scratched alien shields. One by one, they fell in bursts of flame. But each bought another minute of defiance. Civilians in the shelters listened to the battle above. Every explosion shook the ground. Every falling ship echoed like a drum of doom. Mothers held their children tighter. Old men whispered prayers. Everyone waited for the final strike. In orbit, the alien fleet began to shift. Their ships moved into perfect formation, encircling the planet for the killing blow. The enemy commander raised his clawed hand. Prepare. The main cannons. Let this world burn. His crew obeyed. Massive weapons hummed with energy, glowing brighter, ready to erase Vera 9 from existence. The skies grew darker. The colony braced for death. And then, something happened. A faint ripple touched the scanners. Small at first. Almost nothing. An officer frowned, tapping his screen. Commander, I'm detecting unknown signals at the edge of the system, the reptilian commander growled. Identify them. The officer's hand shook. I cannot. The codes are old, very old. But, Commander, they are human. The chamber fell silent. The commander bared his teeth. Impossible. Destroy the signal, prepare the cannons. But the signals grew stronger. The ripple became a wave. One by one, dots appeared. On the scanners. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. The officer's voice cracked. Sir, they're ships, thousands of them, approaching fast. On Vera 9, alarms rang through the bunker. Commander Alrin rushed to the display, his heart pounding. Blue lights appeared alongside the red enemy fleet. Unknown vessels, massive in scale, their formation precise and unshakable. The young officer gasped. Commander, is it true? Are they? Alrin's voice trembled, but his eyes shone with fire. It can only be one fleet, Earth's Armada. In orbit, the enemy commander stood frozen as the dark shapes tore into the system. They were colossal, their black hulls gleaming with lights that formed Earth's symbol. Engines glowed like suns, weapons bristling with power unseen for centuries. For a moment, the galaxy's predators felt fear. The silence was broken by a human voice, deep and calm, carried across every channel in the system. This is the Earth Armada. You thought no one would come. You were wrong. The skies above Vera 9 burned brighter than ever, but now it was not the fire of destruction. It was the fire of return. The last stand. The skies above Vera 9 burned red. Alien warships circled the small allied world like predators around a dying animal. Their engines glowed, their cannons charged, and every citizen below could feel the vibration in the ground as if the planet itself was trembling. The Galactic Council had promised protection, but no fleets had come. No allies had arrived. Vera 9 was alone. In the underground command bunker, Commander Alrin stood over a cracked holographic map. His tired eyes traced the red dots representing enemy ships, too many to count. His hands shook as he pressed a button, watching their defenses vanish one by one. We have no shield generators left, said his second-in-command, a young officer with dust on her uniform. The last orbital platform fell an hour ago. Alrin exhaled slowly. How long? Until they breach the city walls? 6 hours, maybe less. The words hung heavy in the air. Above ground, the colony prepared for the inevitable. Families carried what little they could into underground shelters. Children cried, holding on to parents who whispered lies of safety. Soldiers stood at checkpoints, with rifles they knew would make no difference against starships. One soldier whispered to another, "The Council abandoned us." The other spat on the ground. The Council was nothing without humans, and now humans are gone. We are all finished. The first soldier said nothing, but deep inside he wished the words weren't true. In the bunker, Commander Alrin opened a private channel. His voice was steady, but his heart carried despair. This is Vera 9 to any Allied fleet. We are under heavy siege. Defenses failing. Civilians in danger. Request immediate assistance. Static answered him. Only silence filled the room. He lowered his head. It was their final call, and no one was listening. But the young officer spoke softly. Send it again. Someone might hear. Alrin almost refused. Yet he pressed the button once more. The signal repeated, vanishing into the black void of space. He did not know that somewhere far beyond the Council's reach, old machines listened. Old channels, long abandoned, flickered awake. The enemy commander watched from orbit. His scaled face twisted into a smile as he addressed his fleet. Vera 9 is finished. Their defenses crumble. Their allies hide in fear. When the sun rises tomorrow, their world will belong to us. Let the galaxy see that no one comes when we strike. These ships answered with thunder, cannons firing into the planet's surface. Explosions lit the skies as buildings crumbled and fire spread across cities. In the bunker, Alrin felt the ground shake. Dust rained from the ceiling as another blast shook the mountain above. "Shall we surrender?" asked one officer, his voice weak. Alrin looked at the map one last time. The red dots filled the skies. His jaw clenched. "No, we fight until the last breath. If we fall, Let it be known we did not kneel. Outside, the colony prepared for the last stand. Artillery pieces rolled into position, their barrels pointing to the skies. Old fighters, patched together with scraps, lifted off from broken runways. Civilians volunteered to carry ammo, food, and water to the soldiers. They all knew they would not survive, but they would not go quietly. A priest stood among the soldiers, raising his voice over the thunder. "Hold fast. If this is our end, let us show them what it means to face the spirit of the living." The people shouted with him, their voices raw but strong. As night fell, silence covered the colony. The fires still burned. The enemy ships still circled, but on the ground every soldier and civilian waited. Rifles were loaded. Doors were barricaded. Eyes looked to the sky, not with hope, but with defiance. In the bunker, Commander Alren recorded one last message. His voice cracked as he spoke. "This is our last stand. If anyone hears this message, know that we fought. Know that Vera 9 did not surrender. Humanity once taught us to resist, to never bow. Tonight we honor that lesson." He shut the recorder. His hands trembled, but his eyes were steady. Far beyond the stars, in the dark reaches where no council, fleets patrolled, the message traveled. It passed through abandoned satellites, through forgotten relays, until it reached a place no alien dared speak of. Earth. And in the silence of that hidden world, old engines stirred. Lights flickered on across massive shipyards. Ancient warships, larger than anything the galaxy had seen, came alive after decades of waiting. The Armada had heard the call, the desperate signal. The night over Vera 9 was endless fire. Enemy ships rained destruction on the surface, striking cities, farms, and refugee camps. The sky glowed red with burning smoke, and the people hiding underground could feel the planet dying around them. Inside the command bunker, Commander Alren sat in silence. His last message had been sent, his final words carried into the void. No one expected an answer. The Council had already abandoned them, and the colonies had no fleets left to spare. But still, the signal traveled. It crossed through broken relays, bounced between silent satellites, and passed into channels long forgotten by the galaxy. Most thought those frequencies were dead. But they were not. In the darkness of deep space, something listened. Far beyond Council space, on a hidden world covered in steel and silence, old machines stirred. Buried communication towers flickered to life, processing the signal again and again. "This is Vera 9. Defense is failing. Civilians in danger. Request immediate assistance." The voice of Commander Alren echoed in silent halls. Then, deep underground, ancient systems awoke. Massive bunkers rumbled as lights flared on across an entire planet. Long-dormant engines hummed. Shipyards hidden under oceans and mountains activated after decades of sleep. Humanity had heard the call. Back on Vera 9, the situation worsened. Reports came in every hour, each one darker than the last. The North continent is gone. The enemy has reached the eastern cities. Shelters are collapsing, too many refugees. The young officer at Alren's side whispered, "Commander, there is no chance left." Alren looked at her, his face pale but steady. "There is always a chance, even if it is only to fight to the end." She lowered her head, but her eyes filled with tears. I wish the humans were still here. They would not have let this happen." Alren placed a hand on her shoulder. "Sometimes I think they are still watching. And if they are, may they forgive us for falling." The enemy commander observed from orbit. His fleet blotted out the stars, his voice carried through every channel on the planet. "Surrender now," he declared. "Lay down your arms and we will spare your civilians. Resist, and we will burn this world to ashes." His words spread across the bunkers and shelters. Civilians looked at each other in silence. Many felt their hope die. But in the command bunker, Alren sent his reply. His voice was steady, even as his world crumbled. "We do not surrender. Come and take this world if you dare. But know that Vera 9 does not kneel." The battle raged on. Civilians carried ammunition to the front lines. Farmers used old hunting rifles to guard the shelters. Pilots flew battered fighters into impossible odds, burning in the sky but buying time with their lives. Every moment was survival. Every moment was sacrifice. And above it all, the alien fleet prepared for the final strike. Far away, Earth's hidden fleets awoke fully. In orbit around the silent homeworld, massive ships began to move. They were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Armored giants bristling with weapons, each one a fortress of steel. One by one, their engines roared, lighting up the black. Deep inside the largest ship, the flagship Eternity, a human admiral, stood before his crew. His uniform was old, his face lined with age, but his eyes burned with fire. "The signal has come," he said. His voice carried through every deck, every corridor. "Vera 9 stands against the galaxy's monsters alone. They believe no one will come. They believe Earth has forgotten. They are wrong." His fist clenched. "We rise now, not for vengeance, but for our people. We rise to show the galaxy that humanity never abandons its own." A cheer thundered across the flagship, across every ship, across the Armada. The greatest fleet in human history was ready. On Vera 9, Commander Alron stood above the holographic map, watching the red dots multiply. The enemy fleet moved into final formation, preparing to descend. The officer beside him whispered, "This is it. They will strike at dawn." Alron closed his eyes. Then dawn will be our last memory. He didn't know that far beyond the stars. Dawn had already come. Not for Vera 9, but for Earth, and with it the Armada.